Thanks for coming. What do you think of my hat? All right, I'm gonna sign the hat and I'm gonna throw it out. All right, I love you guys too. Thank you for coming out in support of this very important Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. It's actually something that I think it's one of those things that may seem like it's obviously important in the state of Wisconsin, but I think it could actually be important for the country as well, and maybe for the world. The House majority right now is razor thin. It's really just a few seats, and if the Supreme Court is able to redraw the districts, they will gerrymander the districts and deprive Wisconsin of 2 House seats on the Republican side. Yeah, exactly. The result of that could be that the House switches to a Democratic House. Yes, indeed. And then they will try to stop all of the government reforms that we're doing, and we're getting done for you, the American people. So the reforms that we're getting done in D.C., thanks to President Trump and his great team, are really profound. Really, the goal is very simple. It's to restore merit and freedom. So that's what it comes down to. So America is the land of freedom and opportunity. So we want to restore individual freedoms, freedom of speech, just in general, get the government off your back. And then make sure that you succeed in the United States as a function of your hard work and your talent, and nothing else. So these are really noble and important principles, and I'll talk more about this, all night really, as long as you guys want to hear about it. But as you may have seen with stuff that we've posted on the Doge.gov website and the Doge handle on the X platform, there is a tremendous amount of waste and fraud in the federal government. Like, shocking, really. It's insane. Yeah, it's really wild. So, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George from me. USA, 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 USA. Yep. It was inevitable. I was waiting for that one. So, yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. Isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left? Isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the death of the president and me. I'm like, guys, you know, this is insane. Like, they're gone psycho. I mean, it's really, like, I totally understand if somebody doesn't want to buy a product. Yeah, it's up to you. It's a free country, you know, but you don't have to burn it down. Okay? But much. That's somebody else's car. Leave it alone. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so, man, the derangement level on the left is just like, it's blown my mind, frankly. I mean, I'm like, what is going on? They've just lost it next level. I'm like, it's like, whoa. And I sort of wonder what's, you know, the legacy media is in part to blame for this, and maybe primarily to blame for this, because, you know, it's really terrible. It's like, if they keep calling, you know, they've obviously called President Trump every name in the book. You know, I think there was one article that called the president worse than Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin combined. And I'm like, actually, President Trump's not killed anyone. In fact, he's very good at stopping wars, not starting them. So, you know, we're really very different. Maybe we need to add some more history lessons back in schools. Because I don't know if people understand, you know, what the difference... Do they know what Hitler, Mussolini, and Stalin did? It seems they don't. I mean, it's just indicative of the poor quality of education pushed by the National Department of Education. So... You know, that's why we want to restore freedom to the states, let the states decide on the educational agenda and not have something pushed by a bunch of neo-Marxists in D.C. So... I mean, it is astounding how much anti-American propaganda is pushed on kids today in schools. It's mind-blowing. It's like, what the hell's going on, you know? So... Anyway, but on a more positive note, we have this petition, you know, sort of against activist judges, because judges should be simply interpreting the law, not making the law. So, in appreciation for the support of people in signing this petition against activist judges. We just want judges to be judges, you know, which is a reasonable thing to ask for. We're obviously seeing like some crazy stuff in D.C. where, you know, it seems like it's like any federal judge can stop any action by the president, of the United States. This is insane. Like, this has got to stop. It's got to stop at the federal level and at the state level. But let me first hand out 2 $1 million checks in appreciation. Okay, so the first check goes to Nicholas Jacobs. All right. Now, I should say that the reason, you know, the reason for the checks is that it's really just to get attention. It's like we need to get attention, and it's somewhat inevitably when I do these things, the sort of it causes the legacy media to like kind of lose their minds. And then they'll run it on every news channel, and I'm like, I couldn't pay them it would cost like 10 times more, or you know, to get the kind of coverage that we get. So, all right, thank you so much. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. All right. You can just, I guess, take it if you want. We'll get. I think we'll get you a real one too. So, And then the second one is to Ekaterina Diesler. Let's see, hopefully here. So, well, and like I said, this is just helpful for getting attention, and then it's kind of fun to see the legacy media lose their minds over it too. So, love you too. So, yeah. So, let's see. Hello. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. All right, congratulations. All right, so we're also going to be announcing, or we are announcing now, a program, sort of a Get Out the Vote program. That's the webpage should be going live, I think around now, which is at the America PAC website, or just go to the America PAC X account. And the single biggest challenge, I think, is actually just making people aware that there is this very important election. And there's both the very important election for Judge Schimmel, as well as the deciding on adding voter ID to the Wisconsin Constitution, which is very, very important. So it's quite shocking that I mean, you can sort of tell where voter fraud is happening, where they ban ID, Like, why would you ban ID? Like, in New York and California, it's, like, illegal to show ID at an election. Well, I can't imagine why that would be the case. So two really important things is really just ensure judicial integrity on Tuesday, and then the voter ID thing. And, it's April Fool's Day. And it's like, I think most people aren't aware, like I said, most people aren't aware that there is this important election. Most people don't even know that there's an election at all. Or if they do, they aren't sure exactly when and where it is, and they aren't sure yet or they don't realize just how important it is. They think it's just some kind of judicial thing that's not that important. But what's happening on Tuesday is a vote for which party controls the U.S. House of Representatives. That is why it is so significant. And whichever party controls the House, it to a significant degree controls the country, which then steers the course of Western civilization. So it's like, I feel like this is one of those things that may not seem that it's going to affect the entire destiny of humanity, but I think it will. No pressure. Yeah. So, it's a super big deal, and the fact that I'm here in person, like I'm not phoning it in. I'm here in person. Yeah. So. And there were quite a few death threats, I have to tell you. I was like, my security team said, well, it's actually gone down from yesterday to today. It went down from 18,000 to 17,000. So I'm like, oh, maybe it's getting better, But you can see like how crazy some of these people are. Look at the two sort of people that tried to assassinate President Trump. I mean, that was, and one, they both almost succeeded. So it's real, like it's not like some imaginary thing. So anyway, what we're announcing is kind of like a block captain program where somebody can sign up to knock on doors in their zip code and encourage people to make people aware that there is a vote, and then aware of how important the vote is. So you can sign up to be kind of a block captain for your zip code on the America PAC website right now. Yeah, and if you do, it's like basically $20 for just taking a photo with somebody. It's pretty straightforward. You just knock on doors in your neighborhood and give them either a digital or a paper, picture of, Justice Brad Schimmel. It can be an approximation. It doesn't have to be exact. But they just have to say thumbs up and hold a picture of Judge Schimmel. And that's it. And you get $20. It's pretty easy. It's easy money. So, but the whole point of it is just to make people aware of the election and say that there is an election. It's on Tuesday, and it's super important. Please vote. So. But I think without something like this, we actually are in serious danger of losing the election. This is very important to put in mind. If you look at the betting market odds, so if you look at sort of the Poly market or Kalshi, like the betting markets, it varies between 85% and 90% probability of loss for Justice Schimmel. That's the current situation. So we got to pull a rabbit out of the hat next level. We're actually going to have a steady stream of rabbits out of the hat, like it's an arc of rabbits flying through the air and landing in a voting booth. Interesting picture. Grok could probably make that picture. That's basically what's needed. We need to generate an anomaly in the matrix, and because I think there's currently the Dems are 100,000 votes ahead. But if the people that voted for President Trump simply vote on Tuesday, we will win. That's actually all it takes. Just vote. Boom, done. Victory. So. We basically need to dragnet the state. It's like everybody's gonna mobilize everywhere like crazy for the next 48 hours. And I think this will be important for the future of civilization. It's that significant. So you don't hear me saying that very often. It's a big deal. So vote for Super Judge Schimmel. I call him Super Judge Schimmel. So, let's see. So with that, I think we can do Q&A, if you guys would like to do some Q&A. And I'm happy to answer any questions. It can be, about Doge or whatever you'd like to hear about. Because I think if you ask questions that the public would be interested in hearing, then those snippets will go all over the place, and it will be helpful to the public, at large, and maybe even beyond our country. So let's see. Yeah, go ahead. We can just start over there.
As AI continues to get smarter, won't it inevitably see through its creators' propaganda?
Yeah, the question is, as AI gets smarter, will it see through its creators' propaganda? I hope so. I think you can sort of think of an AI as it is somewhat nurtured by its creator. So you have to say, what is the operating principle? What is the North Star of the AI? If it's a somewhat corporate AI, it could be like it's just trying to make corporations happy, or it could be, if it's particularly some of the AIs that are trained in like the city of San Francisco, it's going to have kind of a San Francisco bias to it. Because you can think of like smart people as well, there are big differences in sort of beliefs among smart people. And so you can expect that there will be big differences in beliefs among AIs as well. With Grok, our aspiration is a maximally truth-seeking AI, which is like you always want to try to get as close to the truth as possible, even if the truth is unpopular. And that's our goal, which I think is a very important goal. Hey, nice shirt.
Oh, thank you. First of all, path of exile for life. But more importantly, as we see the whole world has turned to a fear-based mobilization effort. And we've seen that translate into violence. And the right's not immune to it because it can hit anybody's psychology.
Sure.
How do we beat that with optimism? Because that's going to be crucial to avoid mass eruption of conflict.
Yeah, I mean, there does seem to be... you're right that the right is not immune from sort of hate and violence. It's not like nothing, but it does seem weirdly heavily weighted towards the left. I mean, like, I haven't seen anyone tearing off like a Biden-Harris hat. Like, we're just like, you feel a bit sorry for them, like, oh, maybe they're wrong there, you know. But you see people tearing off MAGA hats. And someone just, you know, I saw a video just today where somebody was just on an escalator, a woman was on an escalator wearing a MAGA hat, and someone going the other direction tore the hat off her head. And I'm like, what? That's rude, you know. In fact, I sort of find myself in a strange position because I didn't think of myself as right. I thought of myself as centrist. But then the left went all the other way in the other direction, and now everyone's a Nazi, you know. Before you know it. And I'm like, wait a second, do you know what that means? Obviously not. So, but yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I believe in peaceful discourse and that, you know, we make arguments, verbal arguments, and the people decide which way they want to go. But you know, we don't engage in sort of shouting people down or violence or burning things or shooting things. That's how democracy is supposed to work, is peaceful discourse. So.
My question is about USAID. Has the Doge team found any evidence that any of the radical left Democrats like Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, Chuck Schumer have received money directly from USAID? And if so, will we be hearing about that evidence anytime soon?
Yeah. So there is a massive amount of corruption, but it is circuitous. So what happens is there's money that, obviously it's your taxpayer money, that is then sent to various government organizations who then send it to NGOs, which an NGO is a non-governmental organization, but obviously if it's a government-funded non-governmental organization, it's just an organization, it's just a government. And effectively there's a giant fraud loophole, which is that the government can send money to an NGO that is then no longer governed by the laws of the United States. So they'll send the money overseas to one NGO, then they'll go through a bunch of them, and then I'm highly confident that a bunch of that money then comes back to the United States and lands in the pockets of the people you just mentioned. But it is a circuitous route. It's not like it doesn't go directly, but let's just say that there's a lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while earning, how did they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that. So something's, yeah, we're going to try to figure it out and certainly stop it from happening. Yeah. I mean, just in general, the whole NGO scam is just crazy, yeah, it's blown my mind really. So yeah.
Most of us here are aware of social media censorship, and I know you're keenly aware of it. Thank you for turning around X. Awesome.
Welcome.
As censorship picks up in financial institutions, what can we do about that?
So are you referring to offering financial services by X?
No,
Sorry.
being kicked off of financial
yeah.
for beliefs.
Yeah. Well, certainly that won't happen during the Trump administration. Hopefully that can be enshrined in law, which is part of the reason why we need a Republican Congress. So you didn't see any Republicans kicking Democrats out and debanking Democrats, but there were a lot of Republicans that were debanked, thousands, which is really outrageous. So I say it does seem kind of one-sided, you know, this like trying to ruin people's lives and financially and violent protests overwhelmingly comes from the left these days. You know, it's like, and whereas the right is polite, you know, and fair as far as I can tell. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you for being here. Your comment kind of about the Matrix is kind of ironic because my husband and I watched the first Matrix and the sequel yesterday. My question is, when so much of social media nowadays, you know, whether it be X or YouTube or whatever, is kind of curated to like a person's particular beliefs, or even where we have protesters that show up to town halls or potentially are paid. How does America kind of come together? And it used to be where you could have a conversation and have discourse like you discussed,
Right.
And still be friends even if you disagreed with kind of some of their statements. When you talk about knocking on doors, like to different people's house, like one kind of fear that I have is like, even if you talk to somebody, everybody has their own sets of beliefs and their own truths. So I guess how do you get through that?
Yeah, well, I think what we saw there for quite a while was that all of the legacy media and all of the new social media were in lockstep together. And they were all parroting the same left-wing talking points. And they were suppressing any dissent and any so-called right-wing or frankly even centrist views. And with that's why I felt it was critical to acquire Twitter, now X, in order to enable that dialogue. So it's certainly a step in the right direction, and I think you've seen now once X was willing to break ranks and not censor Republicans, then you saw others also start to move in that direction. You know, it looks like, for example, Facebook and Meta, you know, yeah, they've certainly, Mark Zuckerberg has stated that they will be doing sort of community notes based on the community notes of the X platform, and as opposed to having sort of far left censorship bureau, the sort of, you know, the woke Stasi essentially reviewing things. So that's a step in the right direction. You know, there's maybe some hope for the CNNs of the world. There's like, with Scott being on there, he's great. You know, he's like, I'm sort of hopeful that things that are moving in the direction where different points of view are espoused on, or you know, heard on legacy media and social media. So I guess maybe I'm actually a little bit optimistic about the future. You know, on the X platform, you know, we don't prioritize, you know, one side or the other. We try to be as fair as possible, and I will reply to, you know, prominent Democrats even if they sort of say terrible things about me. So, you know, it's like, yeah, we should have this discourse, and so I kind of think, at least on the media front, things are going in a good direction, but on the but I am kind of perturbed by the sort of how aggressive these protests are. Where it's like, there are people at these protests calling for the death of the president and death of me and, I don't know, probably death of others. That's the kind of thing that's not cool, At the risk of saying something outrageous, calling for murder is not cool. So,
thanks for coming, Elon. I'm a teacher by trade. I have gone through the 4-year bachelor degree to teach the nation's youth going forward. On that,
I'm kind of curious. What was that like?
I got an English degree, man. At the end of the day, unless you want to hire me, that's about that's about.
Sure.
So during teacher college, they give us a heat map, and it says these are the cost per head on each student. The southeast is generally the worst, but they're also generally the lowest spent per capita on each student. Beyond just that correlation of the one text I got in an education class, I wonder, with your investments in Khan Academy, with the advancement of AI educational tools where specifically you can get feedback and these students can get feedback.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where do we see 100 years from now? With all
100 years from now?
How about 50?
I hope we last 100 years. That'd be like jackpot. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully we were like on Mars, So that would be really cool. So I do think AI can be incredibly helpful in teaching because you can essentially set up each kid with like a personalized AI, and that AI can then answer questions for each kid, and that actually can be very profound in learning, because obviously if you've got a classroom of say 25, 30 kids, you can't like spend. It's literally impossible to spend time with every kid individually, or at least you can spend a little bit of time, but not. Obviously, it's a 1 to 20, 1 to 30 ratio. So, but what you can do is you can set them up with the AI, and then you can, if things get stuck or whatever, if you want to, you can essentially guide the orchestra that way, and I think it could be a very powerful learning tool. I personally enjoyed my English classes in high school, actually. Sometimes I wondered, why am I reading Charles Dickens? But, there's some merit to reading Dickens, and many of the... I actually think that we should have a great canon of English literature, that kids do at least, some number of the significant works in the English language. So... I mean, it seems like very obvious to me, but And another thing with regard to teaching is that I think teaching is a very important profession. If you look at the expenditures, there's a very big rise in the number of administrators, but not a very big rise in the number of teachers. And so that's really the big factor, which is we should have more actual teachers. I believe in paying teachers well and having a lot of teachers, but we should say, why do we have so many administrators or non-teachers? So administrative expense has gone ballistic, but teaching expense is more or less flat. Doesn't make sense. So.
First, I would like to apologize to you on behalf of America for the idiots you have to deal with for what you're doing for us to improve our country. Second of all, my question is, what is your opinion on the Federal Reserve, and do you have any intentions of doing anything with them?
And the Fed! Yeah. I don't know, I always wanted to say that, But I mean, I think there's like 20,000 people that work at the Fed. Seems pretty high. It's like there's a lot of people that work at the Fed, and it seems like, why do we have so many people at the Fed, and what do they do? And sometimes I wonder which one would win. The federal for interest rates, the board of the Federal Reserve, or a magic 8-ball. And I'm like, I think the magic 8-ball might win. So then I'm like, well, Magic 8 Ball is a lot cheaper. So, it's like you shake it, it says, check back again later. I'm like, okay. Same thing. But I think what really matters is that government spending is not far in excess of government revenue. That's a fundamental issue that we have, where we have a deficit of $2 trillion, and we have interest payments that now exceed the entire budget of the military. In fact, that was a big wake-up call for me, was when the amount of money that we pay in national debt interest exceeded the Defense Department budget. I'm like, the Defense Department budget is very big, and interest is higher than that and climbing. That's a disaster. So the very simple, straightforward goal of the Doge team is to get rid of waste and fraud. It's mostly waste. Or depending on how, I'd say it's probably 80% waste, 20% fraud, something like that. But it's $1 trillion, so that's still a lot. And it's got to be. We got another Soros sleeper agent there. USA, 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 USA. So, to be clear, the very simple thing we're doing, and we post everything publicly on the Doge website, which is just to look at every expense and say, is this actually a good use of your taxpayer dollars? That's it. It's not super complicated. And the thing that's pretty wild, this is why I say, I used to be a Democrat, and so and if you listen to the speeches of Clinton and Gore in the 90s, when they were going on about reducing waste and fraud, literally you wouldn't be able to tell the difference if, who said it, Doge or Clinton Gore. You can't even tell the difference. It sounds exactly the same. It's wild. So we're really just trying to restore common sense to government and say, let's not waste your money, and let's make sure it's spent well, and that's it. And in trying to save $1 trillion of expenditures, what we're saying is, of the $7 trillion in government spending, let's see if we can make it 15% more efficient. And I'm confident that we can. That's actually not a huge bar, by the way. So. And when you see the crazy things that the government is spending money on, you can see a list of some of them. So I don't know if we should be spending money on transgender comic books in Peru. That doesn't seem like an ideal thing to spend your money on. Why would we do that? If somebody in Peru wants to do that of their own accord, that's fine. But it shouldn't be your money that does it. So it just, and we shouldn't be paying rent on empty buildings. If I do think there is a role for government, but we just need to we're just going through and saying and doing what I would call an excellent and necessary and reasonably trusted review of organizations and personnel. So is this person doing a good job? Great. Is the role necessary? If so, that's good. And are they reasonably trusted, meaning they're not a psycho? We're not talking about political affiliation, just that they're not crazy. I'm what's wrong with that? I'm sounds super normal to me. So that's it. Now, in this process, one of the things that we've discovered, which is, I think, on the fraud side, which is a really big deal, is that the Democrat administration, the Biden administration, has basically taken every arm of the of the U.S. government and bent it towards creating a financial incentive for illegal immigrants to come to the United States. Now, this is every part of the government. So like Social Security, Medicaid, unemployment insurance, disability, even the IRS. So you can like fill out a fake tax return and say you need a tax, maybe I shouldn't tell people this, but it'll actually work. I mean, mostly. There's some chance you'll get caught, but if you fill out a fake tax return, you can just get a tax refund even though if you didn't pay taxes. So we're trying to stop all these things, to say like, okay, well, let's stop the waste and fraud, and we also need to turn off the massive financial incentive for illegals to come to the United States and stay in the United States. And this is really the thing that is causing the Democrats to lose their mind. You know, because they're actually spending, at this point, tens of billions to attract and retain illegals in the United States. It's really on that scale. It's a gigantic number. And the goal is to turn all the swing states blue. That means Wisconsin. So that's the goal. So with the asylum program, if they can get a green card within a year, and then they can get citizenship as quickly as 4 years after getting a green card. Because the first year of being an asylum counts for the 5-year citizenship waiting period. So this is a very big deal. So a number of friends of mine have actually joined the government and in order to help with this process. And I'd like to welcome my friend Antonio Gracias to the stage. I think so. Does it work? I can give you mine. Does it work? It'll be okay. I mean, Buzz Aldrin's still alive, and he went past the belts.
Work. Is this working? Yeah, it's on now, yeah.
There you go. So, Antonio, can you tell us what you... Antonio is helping out with the Social Security. So just trying to review Social Security, where you may have heard that we found 20 million dead people marked as alive in the Social Security database. This is so crazy. And then you'll notice there's a strange trend here where how many Social Security numbers were issued. Do you want to?
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened here. We started at the top of the system.
You want to talk about a lot of maybe?
We started at the top of the system, mapping the whole system of Social Security to understand where all the fraud was. And there's a lot of great people there that showed us really a lot of waste. And so that came up with a big list of stuff that we're working on. You've heard some of that already. But this is what jumped out at us. When we saw these numbers, we were like, what is this? In 21, you see 270,000 people, goes all the way to 2.1 million in 24. These are non-citizens that are getting Social Security numbers.
Yeah, this is a mind-blowing chart.
Yeah, this literally blew us away. Like, we went there to find fraud, and we found this by accident. And this isn't political, by the way. My parents are immigrants. Yeah, this country's been great to us. My brother and sister all born in Spain. I'm pro-legal immigration. This is not political. This is not political. This is about America and the future of America. And there are a lot of good people in the system that pointed us in this direction. I want to honor them right now, that work in the government today, who took risks to show us these numbers and tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
So I want to stop for a minute. I want to honor those people today. Very good people. Very good people. I have been from D.C. to Social Security offices to the border to track this down, and very good people have helped us along the way. I want to thank them.
Yeah.
This number, what this is when you come in the country, if you're an illegal, there's a couple ways to come in. You come in through a port of entry, and you can tell them you're afraid, and they'll give you an asylum case. You'll get an interview. Then you get in. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just go to the border. Literally, this happened. I talked to Border Patrol myself. Elon was there too. I went to Laredo, and I went to Bronzeville. Elon went to Eagle Pass. You walk up to a Border Patrol officer, and you tell them you want to come in. They have a couple of choices. They could charge you with a misdemeanor or a felony under 1325, or they can make it an administrative offense, like a parking ticket, basically. They were told to do that, make it an administrative offense under the last administration. and then you go walk across the border. They do what's called a release your own recognizance, and they give you an NTA, a notice to appear, which to appear at a judge. The wait times on judges are like average 6 years. Look at Grok, you'll see it on immigration judges. There's only 700 of them. This is 5.5 million people, okay? So what happens then? Once you're in the country and you've got asylum through one of these pathways, and we've mapped the whole thing out, you can apply for a work document. You file a 765, it's the work form. You get this form called the 766, that's the authorization, and then Social Security Administration automatically sends you in the mail your Social Security number. No interview, no ID.
This is worth just reiterating. It's not, people sometimes think that under the Biden administration that he was simply asleep at the switch. He wasn't asleep, they weren't asleep at the switch. It was a massive, large-scale program to import as many illegals as possible, ultimately to change the entire voting map of the United States and disenfranchise the American people and make it a permanent, deep blue, one-party state from which there would be no escape.
Look, if I hadn't seen this myself, I'm not sure I'd have believed it. I went through it myself and mapped it, and Elon is right. This is true. The defaults in the system from Social Security to all of the benefit programs have been set to max inclusion, max pay for these people, and minimum collection. That's what's happening. We found 1.3 million of them already on Medicaid, as an example. We've gone through, on every benefit program we went through, we found groups from this particular group of people, this 5.5 million people, in those benefit programs. And then what was really, really disturbing us was why. We're asking ourselves why. And so we actually just took a sample and looked at voter registration records. And we found people here registered to vote in this population, yes.
And who did vote.
And we found some by sampling that actually did vote. And we have referred them to prosecution at the Homeland Security Investigation Service.
Yeah.
Already. That is already happening. Right now. Yeah. And the truly disturbing thing, though, I just want you to know this, a truly disturbing thing to me, and the darkest thing about this to me, the voter fraud is terrible, but the human tragedy this created is extraordinary, because what you don't understand, and people don't know, and Americans need to know, that's why I'm here, is that human traffickers made $13 to $15 billion off of this, okay? That's the money that's going around the world, moving people around the world to our borders because of these incentives. How does it work? What happens? Hey, if you're in Africa and you're in Central America, you got to walk up through Mexico and through Central America. Who do you pay? You pay the narcos, you pay the traffickers, right? And we were told by ICE, it's between $20,000 and $500, depends where they pick you up, to walk across all those countries and get all the way up to the border. Where's that money goes? It goes to the cartels. It goes to human traffickers, right? There are 30,000 children that have not appeared on the notice to appear already. ICE knows this. 30,000 children, 270,000 children didn't even get notices to appear. ICE told us that kids are being trafficked back and forth across the border to complete families to make this easier. This is a human tragedy. It's not just the money, it's the people and the kids. And how many of these people died on the way up here that didn't make it in? What happened to them? We created this system here that created an incentive for people to come and be taken advantage of by these traffickers. And how do you think they get paid? Well, you're in Africa, Central America, you got $20,000 or $10,000 or $5,000 to pay these traffickers? No, you don't. What happens? You come in, then you owe them the money. You're an indentured servant. If you don't pay them, what happens? What do? They kill your mother, they kill your brother, they kill your family. What happens next? That's what we discovered. And I have to tell you, it's tragic to me. The tragedy, the human tragedy this created is extraordinary. That's the real problem. This is America. We don't do this here in America.
Yeah.
We don't do this here in America. People come here legally, and that's great. Elon came here legally. My parents came here legally. That's the way to do it. This is outrageous.
Yeah. It's pretty wild. I mean, you can see, because there's still actually a lot of people out there, especially in the sort of center third of the country, that somehow think this is made up by the right, or it's like some fiction. It's not, that it's somehow not true, but it is absolutely true. And you can see that if you look at things like the state of New York, which tried to make it legal for for illegal immigrants to vote in the state of New York that was only shot down by the New York Supreme Court a few weeks ago. And California has made it health care available to all illegals in the state. And they initially claimed that it would only cost $3 billion. It's now $9 billion and climbing. So it's really, if you create a massive financial incentive for people to come to the United States illegally, then that's what they will do. It's a very sort of, it'd be strange, it'd be odd if that didn't happen. So the thing that actually has the Democrats losing their mind by far, the real reason for these attacks and sort of the burning of the cars and everything is that we're going to turn off the payments to illegals. Because, yeah, I mean, because that's not the deal. You know, it's simply not right. You know, if you look at that thing with the Roosevelt Hotel and, like, you know, the luxury hotels in New York, where the Federal Emergency Management Agency funds were being used to house illegals in luxury hotels in New York that the average American can't afford. And they were giving a welcome package and $10,000 debit cards and everything else. Like, it's super real. I mean, it's like, I think it's the biggest voter fraud thing in history by far. And moreover, if left unchecked, it would have succeeded. As Antonio mentioned, the time frame for going from asylum to citizen is roughly 5 years. Yep. And so all of the people that came in on that chart that you saw, if the machine behind the Kamala puppet had won, then, you know, they change out the puppet, but it's the same machine. Then they would have actually legalized all those people, and there would be no swing states.
And they added more. Remember, it was doubling every year.
Yes.
It went from 1 million to 2 million.
It was going ballistic.
Going ballistic. And it is just, these people are just entering the benefit programs now, by the way.
Right.
We're seeing the ramp happen too. And these are just the ones that are in the system. This doesn't count the other, 7.5, 8 million that ICE thinks are out there.
Yeah.
We don't know if they have numbers. The number is totally uncontrolled. The voter ID requirement in this state is super important because of this.
Yes.
Because the Social Security number, it's not supposed to be a federal ID number, but it basically is. That's how you access all the benefits. This is why we need voter ID, because this thing is not secure. You could walk into a Social Security office today as an adult in America, and get a Social Security number enumerated with simply answering 6 or 7 simple questions and showing some forms of ID that are not federal ID.
Well, you could just actually make it up. Basically, you can show basically like a fake utility bill, or
show a medical bill and a school ID.
Yeah, medical bill and a school ID, and you can get a Social Security number.
Yes.
And then from there you get on the voter rolls, and then
yes.
Basically Dem operatives will farm the vote.
Yes.
So the problem with this obviously is that if you turn the swing states blue, then there are no swing states, and then we're in a permanent one-party system. And as soon as they win that, they'll have the House, the Senate, the presidency, they'll pack the Supreme Court, then they'll double down on the illegals, just like California. So we've already seen this happen in California. California is supermajority Dem. So, but at least California is held back by the fact that people can move out of state. Once you can no longer leave America, it'll be far worse than California. So the gravity of the situation is severe.
Help us clean up Wisconsin border wall.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's really simple stuff. Just having photo ID to vote is like, you can't buy something at the liquor store, but voting is more important than buying a beer. So
you're gonna need a real ID to get on an airplane.
You can't fly anywhere. Yeah, and like the same people who are saying that there should be no voter ID at at voting stations demanded vaccine ID from everyone.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's weird, you know. So it's really about just restoring integrity to the voting system, which really should not be a right or left cause, but a cause for all. Do we not all want integrity in the voting system? Of course we do.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Well, you're welcome to hang out and see. Maybe there's some questions people. Let's see. We'll go.
Hi, Elon. I also am a teacher. I was a teacher in Colorado for 8 years, high school Spanish. But I moved here last year and got to vote in Wisconsin, where my vote actually mattered, and I'm so glad. That was amazing that we got Trump elected.
Yeah.
And I was listening to, I believe it was Patrick Bet-David. He called this perfectly, where he said, when Trump gets elected, he's going to go from enemy number one to Elon's going to be number one. And for the reason, I mean, he only has a couple years left, and we've all seen the left go after you and make you number one enemy. And just walking in here, we heard Nazis suck. There's all this horrible thing. And just on a serious note, I just want to let you know, my wife and I pray for you at night.
Thank you.
For your safety. And,
thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
I got to watch my hand gestures these days, you know. Yeah. But I think this one's safe, you know. You know, it's like, can't wave to the crowd. You never know what'll happen.
And I've been a fan of yours for like a decade, and I've been a walking Tesla ad to anybody who talks to me. Even though I never had a Tesla until I came to Wisconsin too, and it's 10 years old, but it's the best Model S I've ever had.
Thank you.
It's incredible.
Thank you.
But I just wanted to ask you if it would be okay. I brought my dad with me. He's a pastor, and I just thought, if it's okay with you, I would love for him to say a prayer for you as well, for your protection.
Sure. Thank you.
Elon, well, thank you so much for everything you've done for our country. We do love you very much.
Thank you.
And as a pastor, but just as a person, right? And even if I wasn't a Christian, and I know not everyone here is a Christian, but I think there's quite a few of you here and who are. Either way, we love all people. That's not the issue. The issue is fairness, what you're talking about. The issue being just, and the justice being a weapon instead of lawfare, instead of actually just, and all this corruption you're talking about. And that's a bad spirit, if you want to say it that way, putting it nicely. It's something evil that has come against our country, our morals, our families, etc. And then you and the president and others getting attacked with this outrage and this hate. So if you would, allow me to pray.
Thank you.
You'd all who want to, please join me, bow our heads and pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we are thankful for our country. We are thankful that God does bless America, and that God is the source of all goodness, love, and provision, and that you, Lord God, have provided a great nation with a great history. And although we've gone through many rough times, you're still very present and active with us. Thank you for protecting President Trump from that fatal attack. And we ask that you envelop and protect all of those who are fighting for justice, for freedom, for order, for dignity, and to reward people according to merit, and especially put your hedge of protection around Elon Musk, around his children, around his whole entire family, and all of his team members, that all would do good and just by our country, and freedom truly and justice would reign once again. We ask this in the name of the blessed Savior, Jesus Christ, who we remember during this time of year, who suffered and died for our sins. May you wash away all that is wrong with our country and start with us. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry? Up to you. You can hang out if you want. Well, that was beautiful. That was beautiful. It's, I think we're going to need divine protection, frankly.
Yeah. Hey, Elon, I'd like to start off by thanking you for all that you've done for our country and the world as a greater whole. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart as well. I had a question for you. As you go about your decision making at Doge, how are you able to keep your moral North Star and not set precedents when it comes to overstepping democratic processes simply because the end justifies the means, and have outcomes similar to the last election with Democratic presidential candidate being appointed without due process that just further polarizes the country?
Sure.
Also, on a side note, one more thing. Do you see a place in the long term for decentralized technology in society and government?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the second question first, I think generally if it's good to have decentralized systems because the more centralized something is, the more power that is in any one single entity, the more corruption you're likely to have. So decentralization, I think, is good to minimize corruption. Then with respect to Doge, I mean, as I said, we're trying to be as literal as possible. It's the Department of Government Efficiency, and it's just literally going through and saying, okay, this money was spent. Is it money that most Americans would agree is sensible, or is it not? If it doesn't seem sensible, then we, say, well, we shouldn't spend that money anymore. We should stop it. So, and then we post we try to be as transparent as possible. So all the Doge actions are posted on the Doge.gov website and on the Doge handle on X. So if people disagree with something, we can say, well, which part do you disagree with? When I get these sort of attacks of like, oh, it's unconstitutional, I mean, like, well, which expenditure is unconstitutional that we have stopped? Because then they don't know, actually, because they haven't actually looked at anything. So now, obviously, a lot of this can be reversed with a new administration, but at least for some period of time, we're going to make sure that your taxpayer money is spent at least 15% better. It's not like I think it's a reasonable goal, it's a rational goal, it's a sensible goal, and the net result, I should say, if we have the combination of a $1 trillion increase in an economic output and a $1 trillion decrease in the budget deficit, then the outcome should be that there is no inflation or very little inflation from one year to the next. So at the end of next year, the prices will be at the grocery store will be very similar to what they are right now, which means that standard of living will actually probably be higher, a little bit higher. Whereas we've had rampant inflation to date, and inflation is really just a pernicious tax that has been used by governments throughout history. And it's very tempting for governments to use inflation as a tax because it's indirect. People see the prices rising at the grocery store or for goods and services or for houses, and they tend to blame the store, but it's not the store, it's the government. The government has reduced the value of money, and as a result, prices rise. So by by reducing waste and fraud, we'll essentially make the economy more efficient, and we'll shift people resources from the government to the private sector. And that will result in an increase in the output of goods and services. And so the average standard of living will therefore rise. So they're trying to make economics sound very complicated, but it's really not that complicated. The standard of living increases when the output of goods, average output of goods and services increases per person. There's basically more stuff, therefore you have more stuff to divide across the people. That's it. You can run this sort of thought experiment and say, like, if there was 100 people on an island, and you'd say, well, how many people do you want farming, fishing, making stuff, versus, doing regulations? You would say, like, oh, you wouldn't want, like, 20 people doing regulations, You'd be like, oh, that's too many. Well, then maybe you'd want one or two. I don't know. Maybe none. Ideally, zero. I mean, I'm all for small government, by the way. I think that really, yeah. When the United States was formed, there were only, you had the Secretary of State, the Secretary of War, which I think is a more accurate name than defense, but it was Secretary of War for a long time. And you had the Secretary of the Treasury, and you had the Attorney General. That was it. And if it were entirely up to me, I'd be like, let's make it like that again. Yeah.
Howdy, gentlemen. I've got a quick question regarding government and transparency. Do you think Dogecoin may ever be used, or the Dogecoin blockchain to be used for maximum transparency?
Well, the names are similar, but they're doing two very different things. In fact, I was going to call it like the Government Efficiency Commission, but that's a super boring name. And then the internet said, no, it needs to be called the Department of Government Efficiency. I was like, well, the internet is right. So we changed the name from Government Efficiency Commission to Department of Government Efficiency. But there are no plans for the government to use Dogecoin or anything, as far as I know. So that they happen to be similar names, but really we're just literally trying to make the government 15% more efficient. It's kind of like most of the work that's being done it's kind of like homework. It's not like it's just work, Frankly, it's like washing the dishes. It's not like, it's a lot of it's not super fun work. It's just, going through and looking at every expense and saying, why does this department have like 10 times more software licenses than people? That doesn't make sense. Why is the government spending $10 million a year on Politico subscriptions? That doesn't make sense. There's just one thing after another like that. It's like things that are just kind of boring. It's like a ton of boring stuff. Like you do hear about like the sort of weird stuff that makes the headlines, but most of the costs that are being cut are just very basic, boring things. It's like homework at scale is what I'd call the Department of Government Efficiency.
Elon, can I add something to this?
Yeah,
I think this question about transparency.
I'm really selling it here.
Yeah, no. I would say the principles that Elon has set out for Doge they begin with truth. Truth. Find the truth. Number one, find the truth. Why? Because the government's gotten so big that actually the people don't even know what's there. Yeah. They don't know the source of truth. So these licenses, it's not like people bought these licenses because they're bad people and they wanted to pay Microsoft. They just kept buying licenses because Microsoft kept selling them to them. I mean, it's that strange.
And we don't want to pick on Microsoft. It's like every software company, by the way.
Any software company. Pick software company X. They bought these licenses because they just thought they should buy more licenses, more people coming in, and there's no one there. People aren't coming back to the office, right? It's just finding truth. The number one principle is truth, and then transparency is number two, I think, on the list, right? So find the truth, make it public, make it transparent. And number three is, do it fast, make it efficient, and be urgent.
Yeah.
Those are the principles that Elon's put in the Doge.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out, it's actually difficult you have to recalibrate how dumb things can be because it's the government. frankly, it's like dumber than you think it could possibly be. So, like for example, we found there were a whole bunch of what I call ghost payments going out, where the government contracting officer had retired or changed jobs or was dead or I don't know, they were not around anymore, and they forgot to turn off the payment stream to some company, and it's like leaving the money faucet on and you leave the house, and it's just the money faucet keeps going. And it's a pretty rare organization that will complain about receiving money. So organizations, so then you're like, is that waste or fraud? I mean, the government did send them the money, but they didn't deserve it. So then, well, okay, we should turn off the money spigot if the contract is over, type of thing. So one of the things that we made a recommendation to the Treasury that the payment classification codes and the explanation for the payment be mandatory fields. And have a name attached. So we could just ask the person who approved the payment, is this payment a good payment? Does this make sense? This is the kind of thing that is normal in, for individuals and for companies, but that was not the case. So the reason why the government could not pass an audit was because the information did not exist that would be required to pass an audit. Like it was literally impossible because you just had all these blank checks going out with no explanation and no payment code. So how are you supposed to do an audit? It's literally impossible. So that's what I mean by like it's very basic stuff. Like we just want the congressional appropriation payment code to be mandatory and a very short explanation. We're not even going to judge what the explanation is, but that there be any explanation at all and a name attached was revolutionary. My guess is this will probably save $100 billion a year, like a lot, So.
Maybe I could tell a little story from Social Security Administration that people might like to hear too, which is at Social Security Administration, they have passed their audit actually. They've got, I don't know, about 100 material deficiency, but they passed their audit. When we looked at the balance sheet, we found that $800 million had fallen off the balance sheet last year. $800 million.
What do you mean it fell off the balance sheet?
It's exactly the question I asked, Elon, thank you.
Where did it fall to?
Exactly, where did it fall to? So I asked the auditors to come in.
It's like a comedy sketch, a comedy routine here.
Where did it go? Exactly.
But wait, where did it go?
Exactly. So here's what happened. I asked the auditors to come in. I won't give the name of the auditors. Come on in. And I asked the audit partner myself.
Where did it go?
What does fell off the balance sheet mean? Is that a gap term or non-gap term?
I've never heard that.
What does it mean? Well, the payment plans, because under the last administration, you could pay if you got overpaid on Social Security, like if you were getting SSI or a disability and they paid you too much money, you got a job, it didn't tell them, they paid you too much money, they dropped that payment plan to $10 a month max. So the payment plans went out past the system date. So if I remember correctly, it was 2047. Payment plans out past system date. When it went past the system date, literally, it fell off the system.
Okay.
It disappeared. And the officers were supposed to, the technicians were supposed to put notes in the system that this was going to be collected. The notes were so bad, the auditors concluded this could not be collected, and we literally lost $800 million. Gone.
Okay.
And I said to the auditor, how could that possibly be? And she said, well, it's not really material. It's a $1.5 trillion program. I said, well, it's material if it's your money.
Is it in the computer?
It's not in the computer. It fell off the computer.
Is it in the computer, like Zoolander,
the computer.
That's in the computer.
Disappeared. $800 million just disappeared.
I mean, it's crazy. So there's like, it's one like nutty thing after another like that. Yeah, it's, yeah, I mean.
It's crazy.
Anyway, we're just trying to basically fix the computers so that we know what the heck's going on. Yeah, it's just like.
Please.
And like I said, being fully transparent with the American people, so you know exactly what's going on, and just making sure that yeah. Anyway, money is not wasteful or fraudulent. One interesting statistic was that 40% of the calls into Social Security were fraudulent, like meaning that it was someone trying to get a Social Security payment that was going to a senior to go to instead to go to a fraud ring. So that was almost half of the phone calls were fraudulent. Probably the other half were people asking, what happened to my Social Security?
This is true, actually.
You know, like, hey, where did my, what happened? This is bananas.
Yeah, I mean, we found this, actually, the people there at Social Security knew this was going on, and they had been complaining about it for a long time, and no one fixed it. And these were mostly criminal rings outside the country, in other places in the world that are jamming up the phone systems, calling in, using just these six simple security questions, because you can actually, this was how crazy it was, you could change your direct deposit information at Social Security by simply answering 6 questions on the phone, like your mother's maiden name, your date of birth, etc.
Like stuff you can find on the internet.
Easily found on the dark web. That's why it was so easy. It was a huge, huge exploitation, super open door. I mean, the bank vault was open, and the criminals ran right in and took the money, and they took it away from our seniors.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what happened is, if like my dad's 84, he'd go get it, thought his check was supposed to be in the bank account, wasn't there, then he's got to go through a whole process to get the money back in the government, which takes a long time. It's the government, right? So we put in a very simple 2FA system. All this nonsense you see in the media about, we turned off the phone lines, whatever, not true. All they did actually, we recommended to Social Security that they put in a very simple 2FA system, and they will...
Two-factor authentication.
Two-factor authentication, the same kind of thing you do at the banks. Like, pretty simple. If you have a bank account, you do this. And you know what? They did it. They said, yeah, you're right, we should do that. They went and did it. Good for them. They did it. No one had the will to do it. They did it. And they're going to keep increasing security. We've given them a lot more recommendations, and they're on the road to increase security, stop all this nonsense, so our seniors and our people that are disabled don't get stolen from.
Yeah, this is really worth emphasizing, because like the radical left are saying that like somehow we're stealing Social Security. Like, first of all, I don't need the money. Okay, in fact. It's costing me a lot to be in this job. You had like Tim Walz dancing on stage showing a chart of Tesla stock, which is a really awful thing for him to do. Because what they're trying to do is put massive pressure on me and Tesla, I guess, to I don't know, stop doing this. It's my Tesla stock and the stock of everyone who holds Tesla went roughly in half. I mean, it's a big deal. So not only am I not getting I'm not getting paid, definitely not stealing money, and would never get away with it. But the value of my Tesla stock is in half. So this is a very expensive job, is what I'm saying. But I think it's you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. But long term, I think Tesla stock's going to do fine. Maybe it's a buying opportunity. But the actual thing we're doing is making sure that people do get their Social Security and that it doesn't get stolen.
100%.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Elon. I got a question for you about Dodge.
Great shirt.
Everybody in this room has got a bunch of money sitting in a bunch of little boxes in a bunch of different states. And it turned into crickets when you brought it up online that you were going to go check our gold. And I'm worried about the Democrats and Joe Biden's last administration with the money not being there. Did you get blocked, or are you still able to go check that?
Sorry, I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're referring to.
Fort Knox.
Oh, Fort Knox. Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah. Well, that's up to the president, of course. But I think it would be, I think it would be awesome to live stream Fort Knox. I mean, that would be really fun. And after all, it is actually the gold of the American people. So the American people should, it seems to me, have a right to see their gold. Hopefully it looks really cool. you know, you open the doors, like, is it there? Like, is that really gold? Let's check. You know, so maybe it'll be really, really interesting. I'm all for it. The president says he's interested in doing it, so hopefully that happens. So, all right.
Good evening, Mr. Musk. How are you?
Good. How's it going?
Good, good. My name is Vito Gabriel. I'm 18 years old. This is my first election that I'll be voting in. So,
great.
Very exciting.
Oh, actually, that reminds me. So it is actually possible to both register to vote on Tuesday. If someone has not registered to vote, they can register to vote in Wisconsin, and they can vote the same day. So even if somebody's not a registered voter, you can do everything on Tuesday.
So, a bit of backstory. When I was younger, 8 years old to be exact, my father put me to work in my family's restaurant. And it led me to want to start my own business and to be successful just like you. And in my opinion, you're one of the most successful businessmen to ever live. And so, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who want to start their own businesses and give back to this great country?
Well, sure. Well, it is very hard to start a business and have it succeed. You know, it is true that most businesses that start do not succeed. So, I mean, I guess I'd really just say, you know, if there's a product or service that you think is really needed, then you go out and you make that product, or you produce that service, offer that service, and try to be as useful as possible, really. You know, it's like whether, you know, it's a great restaurant or store or a technology company or whatever the case may be. It's really just like, are you doing things that are useful to your fellow human beings? And you know, if you are, then I think the company will be successful. So that's really what it comes down to, is just being useful. Like, people ask me, like, what's the top advice? I'm like, try to be useful. It's actually very difficult to be useful. You know, but you know, I have a lot of admiration for anyone who just does an honest day's work. You know, making products or producing services for their fellow human beings. That's what a company is. You know, that's it. So. But it is hard. I mean, to be totally frank, like I generally say, if somebody needs encouragement to start a company, I would recommend not starting a company. It's very difficult. Like, you know, if you look at, say, the automotive industry, the only two American car companies that have not gone bankrupt are Tesla and Ford. So. It's a big cemetery, is what I'm saying. So that's a tough one, you know, very tough industry. And there were really no like commercial rocket companies that were successful before SpaceX. It's generally very difficult to make the value of the output exceed the cost of the input, and that's really what defines a successful business. And profit is really the difference between the value of the output and the cost of the input. That's what profit is. But it's like shockingly hard to make the output more valuable than the input. That's what I found. Yeah, so, all right.
Hi, Elon. Thank you so much for being here. Would you agree with me that the economic illiteracy in this country is staggering? That people don't understand how close we are
I would
for
say
the
that is
ship
true.
of America to going over the fiscal cliff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Most people, actually, I think most people, well, I think a lot of people don't know what a national debt is. Like, how did this national debt come about? And how come there's all this money that somehow we owe it, but we didn't sign up to owing this money? But there's, you know, it's over $30 trillion of national debt, and that doesn't count future obligations. That's just, then it doesn't count state and local debt. So it's a lot of, basically, it's a lot of money that the government has signed everyone in America up for. Yeah, so there's, if we don't do something about it, then eventually there won't be any money for anything. We'll just be paying interest. You know, a company, sorry, I should say, a country is much like a person. It's just bigger. A country is a collection of people. But just like a person can go bankrupt, a country collectively can also go de facto bankrupt, essentially by diluting the currency to where it's worthless. And that's where we're headed unless we are, you know, to take immediate and dramatic action with respect to government spending. We're in deep trouble, basically.
You've seen this in places like Venezuela, Elon.
Yeah, exactly. So you've seen it in a lot of countries where it's, I think things have gone to hell in a handbasket, and it's like we just need to not do that, you know. So if the ship of America sinks, we all sink with it. You know, this is something that I try to tell people in the sort of commercial sector, that like you're not going to, your company's not going to make it if the ship of America sinks. So we all got to, like, you know, work together here to make sure it does not. Yeah. Antonio, feel free to ad-lib as you wish.
I know. Right. This is the only place left to go. That's great.
Right. Exactly. I don't think we can run off to some other country and be okay. It's America. You know, I will die in America. I'm not going anywhere.
I will too.
I mean, I might go to Mars, but that will be part of America. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here today with us in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah. Woo.
I just want to say that Doge's findings demonstrate to the American people that the government clearly does not care about our hard-earned tax dollars. I'm only 26, but I can imagine it's frustrating for people who have worked their entire lives to see their tax dollars going to fraud, waste, and abuse. And you alone have contributed so much money to our government
yes.
via taxes, so thank you.
You're welcome.
But I'm sorry that your money's not being spent very well. You've clearly shown your leadership and team is capable of transforming our government into something better than what we see today. I just want to say I'm sure I'm not the only one who's wondering, but we know that Doge has found quite a bit of money, and we would like to see some of that returned to the American people. Do you have any information on when Doge checks would be written or sent out?
Sure. Well, I guess we need to be successful at scale. We've made a lot of progress, but there's still a tremendous amount of work to do. Effectively, as government spending is made more efficient and spending is reduced, the tax by inflation is reduced. So one way or another, you will effectively be better off if resources in the United States are not wasted. And it's somewhat up to the Congress and maybe the president to as to whether specific checks are cut. But whether a check is cut or not, if you reduce wasteful spending, the economy is going to be better off. People will do more useful jobs than before. The total output of goods and services will increase, and then the average standard of living will increase. So that's yeah. I think the most important lesson in economics is simply common sense, that the more people in a country that are engaged in producing useful products and services, the better off that country will be. Like you could run the sort of thought experiment to say, in the limit, if we moved everyone in the car industry into the DMV, there would be no cars, but there would be a lot of regulators. So then you say, well, okay, well, then how many people should be in the government versus not government? And generally, I think you want to minimize the number of people in government. There's still, be a lot of people in government, but you want to keep that to a minimum and move people from low to negative productivity roles to high productivity roles in the private sector. Yeah. Hey.
Hey, Elon. So the first time I heard about population collapse, I think was from you on Joe Rogan. I grew up in the generation where it was very overpopulation, global warming. A lot of people don't want to have kids. My wife and I just had our first. She's a year. Hi,
congratulations.
Hi, John. Thank you.
Amazing.
And I'm finding out very quickly a lot of these things I was told about having kids, losing personal freedom, it's well worth it. I mean, I would recommend it to everybody, as I'm sure you would. And
Absolutely. I mean, I've been banging the baby drum for ages.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, what's the most surprising and fulfilling thing you've learned from your kids? Especially we've seen you around X all the time with Trump. So what's your most fulfilling thing you've learned from having kids?
Yeah, and X is in the back there. So hopefully he's watching this. Hopefully, yeah. I think I think nothing makes you happier than kids. Really, is what is the truth of it. So, kids are my greatest source of happiness, and I really encourage, as Antonio knows, I've encouraged all my friends and everyone to have kids. It is concerning. The United States has been below replacement rate. The birth rate in the United States has been below replacement rate since roughly when I was born, around 1970, 71, thereabouts. And I think last year was the lowest birth rate on record. It was very low. And then we're seeing this trend in almost every country on Earth. This is worrying because it's like, well, if something doesn't happen, humanity is going to disappear. So it's, I think, very important to have kids. Kids will make you very happy, but there's also we got to keep humanity going here. No humans, no humanity. It's
Elon practices what he preaches too, by the way. He's having lots of kids.
Sorry?
You practice what you preach, and yeah, for sure. And he tells all his friends to do it too. I can tell you that for sure. For sure.
Yeah. So, all right.
Hi, thanks for coming. My name's Adam. I'm a postal worker. I'm wondering if you could give some insight into some of the reforms or changes that DOJ might be looking at for the Postal Service.
Well, actually, perhaps I can ask you what should DOJ be doing with respect to the Postal Service?
I'll write you a letter.
Okay. I suspect you've seen that things are not entirely perfect in the Postal Service.
Yeah.
Yes. So, I mean, obviously, it's delivering mail and packages is very important. There's a reason for why the Postal Service was created. And I haven't really had a chance to look at the Postal Service yet, but okay.
I have a little detail on the analysis if you want.
Do you do?
A little bit.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that, I want to be very general here, but there is this thing about, you could tell us, there's this thing about large volume users of Postal Service versus small volume users, right? So some company, please.
I've heard of that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you probably see it, right? You see, there are some companies in the world that use the Postal Service a lot and pay the same rate as everybody in this room that uses it a little bit. Does that seem fair to you? You see it on the front line.
I can't really say.
Well, he can't say because he works there.
You work there. Okay, doesn't seem fair to me. I don't work there. So I mean, there's a bunch of questions about this people are asking that I think are interesting in the analysis. And when you look at the source of truth and the data, and you make that transparent, I think it's going to be obvious what the right answers are.
Yeah, it seems like some companies are not being charged the right amount for package delivery. And there's probably more administrative overhead than there should be, would be some safe guesses, I suspect.
Those are good guesses.
Yeah.
Good guesses.
All right.
Elon, how are you?
Yo, good.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's
Yeah.
Adam, your #1 reply guy on X.
Hey.
With Scott Presser. It's good to finally meet in person.
Cool.
So I'm glad you like a lot of my stuff.
Yeah.
Constantly replying to my stuff, liking my stuff, and I love to create material because I'm a former Democrat myself, just like you.
Yeah.
And I want to help bring over moderate voters from the Democrat Party who are disenfranchised.
Yeah.
And I'd love to be able to create more content to help you out, to help us win more elections, to win the midterms of 2028 and on
Sounds
and
good.
on. Would I be able to get a follow from your main because you follow me from your old cyber gamer?
Oh, I did. Okay. Yeah. At this point, yeah, sure. I'll do that. Sure. I mean, it's right now. I used to only follow maybe a few hundred accounts, and it was possible to read most of what they posted. But now I think I follow like 1,100 accounts, which makes it impossible. So like it's just like I can only see a few things that people post at random, essentially. Yeah, but I'm trying to digest as much information as my human brain can manage. But yeah, thank you for your engagement, and just in general, like trying to report on what's really happening is great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Musk, thank you so much for being here and bringing attention to what's going on with our Supreme Court here. It's very important, and I think it would have gotten no attention, not even half of what it's getting now, if you hadn't stepped in, for good or bad,
Yeah.
negative press and good press. We thank
No,
you for that.
exactly. Totally. I mean, obviously, for any kind of special election, is going to get a small fraction of the attention of say a presidential election, and then normally an election for a judge would not be that big of a deal. It just so happens that in this case it could decide the control of the U.S. House of Representatives, which is a huge deal. Yeah.
My personal experience with Judge Crawford, I am a family that she moved a pedophile right next to our
What? Really?
Yeah, it is a true story in the ads that you're hearing from Mr. Schimmel. I am one of the homeowners that had to live next to him for many years, unaware. So the letter that I wrote to her, I'm sure, played into what we're experiencing now in family court. We're veterans 20 years. It just was not good for him. It was not good for me. And we're trying to work through our family court situation. But what we're realizing is the two strategies that they use are indoctrination or intimidation. And if you step up and say, we're a practicing Catholic family, the result is her band of merry rogue judges and the court affiliates and the commissioners will flood the family court, have flooded the family court system.
Yeah.
So I guess my question would be, regardless of what happens with this very important vote, let's not forget what's happening in the family court system in Dane County, Wisconsin, that's being flooded with these rogue judges and affiliates and commissioners who then, if you don't subscribe to what they're saying, they will just wipe out your ability to raise your family or proceed with your family in a way that you feel your culture dictates, your religion dictates, your financial background dictates. It has gone completely bananas. And I'm wondering what you can do to keep the light shine on our court system in Dane County. It does have a lasting effect on families, and it will breed out our ability to raise our families in the spirit in which we feel is most healthy for our young, our children, and the sanctity of our family.
Absolutely. I think that's fundamental to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is the foundation of America. That you should have control over your family, not the state. The state should not have control over your family. It's insane that people would think that. So
we've had friends have to escape California because of this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally had to leave because the state tried to take their kids because they're imposing the state's values on the kids. And they literally had to leave overnight. More than one friend, we've had this story.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, no, there's a thing, a change the law in California where if the teachers determine that it's in the kid's interest, like if you don't respect, like, you know, I don't know, 10-year-old's pronouns or something, the state can take your kid in California. So it's insane. You know, it's state forced indoctrination, and if you don't match their, you know, whatever the state wants, then they can take your kid in California. It's a big deal. Yeah, exactly. So it should just be, you know, families should have control over their own circumstances, and it should not be the government that decides how your children should be raised.
Hey, Elon. My name is Josh.
There's a lot of questions, I see.
There is.
We're going to answer everything at this point.
So, I'm sorry.
Please go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you for taking the questions.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I agree. So I was wondering, I noticed that there was a second Mechzilla being built at the Starbase. Are we going to go for a launch for the Artemis mission coming up?
I mean, that's a very sort of space question. So there are 2 towers in South Texas, and then we plan to build 2 towers at the Cape in Florida, and then probably some more elsewhere in the future. But there'll be twin towers at the Cape and twin towers in South Texas, the Starbase. So, all right.
Hey, Elon. Good to meet you. Thank you for everything you're doing for the country and the world.
Yeah, thank you.
I have 2 questions. They asked me to keep it short.
Sure.
Well, when do you envision solving blindness and bringing that to the masses, where it'll be for everyone? And the other is, is robotaxi on schedule?
Yeah. Well, there's certainly a wide range of questions tonight. Yes. So for Neuralink, we've actually had. Neuralink has had in monkeys a working, device we call blind sight, where it's been working well and monkeys are healthy for a few years now, and we're hoping later this year to do our first device implant for human enabling someone who is completely blind to see. It's going to be low res at first, like Atari graphics, so I want to set expectations appropriately. So it'll start off with like very low res, but then over time, I think eventually the implant would enable vision that is like superhuman. So that'd be pretty cool. And then I think so. Currently on track to do unsupervised full self-driving in Austin in June. So I think we probably we'll take maybe 4 more questions, so just 2 from that side and 2 from that side, and then we'll call it a night. So go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. First of all, you are beyond absolutely legendary and an absolute true hero, so thank you so much for everything you're doing, achieving, accomplishing. You've done so many impossibles. It is astonishing. Thank you. But my name is Brian Wright, and I've been filming from last year all the way into this year a docu-series on finding peace. And during this election year, the episode was how many lines do we actually need to cross in order to be able to find peace? And I wanted to ask you, where do you feel like we are in this divide? Are we so far divided as to where there's no coming back to the middle? Or where do you see us being?
Yeah, we should restore the Smith-Mundt Act so that the government cannot spy or issue propaganda to the people. I don't know. I mean, I kind of thought that we're headed in a good direction for a while there, and then the last month or so, there've been these like crazy violent things happening against Tesla and protesting me and whatnot, and I'm like, this is just nuts, and a lot of people sort of parading signs around saying that that President Trump and Elon Musk should die type of thing, and I'm like, this is really nuts, you know. But I think the real issue is like who's organizing and funding that, like the same people that organized and funded the infiltrators, who are the hecklers earlier tonight. So it's whoever they are, you know. And I guess we know some of their names, but it's really, yeah, Soros and a bunch of others. I'm not sure really I sometimes I wonder, what is their goal? Like, what's their aim? You know, I guess, is it communism, I guess, is a part of it, or just, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, like, have they thought through what if let's say they got their goal, then what, you know? So, I don't know, I'm hopeful that things calm down, that there's, that people engage in, like, dialogue but not violence, and that, you know, if for those who do push violence and destruction of property and intimidation, obviously that they need to face legal consequences for that. And the president has said that, you know, that needs to happen. Obviously, if people are pushing violence and destruction of property, that is against the law, and they need to face the consequences of that. So, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you, Elon. I constantly hear that the Doge efforts are going to do things like take away Social Security payments and reduce other government payments like that. You've touched on it tonight, but yeah. Can you you've discussed this at length over the last few months.
Yeah.
Can you talk again about how the Doge efforts are actually going to affect things like the payments and other programs like that?
Yeah, I guess it would be helpful because, so I can just state it as crisply and clearly as possible, that Doge will absolutely ensure that people get their Social Security, make sure they get their Social Security, make sure they get their Medicaid, and will not be cutting any legitimate payments whatsoever. Crystal clear.
I will just add to this. I've been there, working there, and I spent about the first 3 or 4 weeks of my time in the Woodlands actually working in Social Security Administration. 100% what Elon is saying is true. Nothing has happened on the ground that would impact the level of payments going to people that legitimately are owed those payments, period. A lot is going to happen to people that are stealing from the system. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not getting the payments. And you know who's screaming? They are. Because they're committing fraud. And we should take that away from them. Because they're stealing from all of us in this room and our parents. And they're going to scream loud. And it's going to get louder.
But thank you for asking that question, because it is something that, as obvious as it sounds, it's a great question, because we just need to be very crisp and clear. Doge will make sure you get your Social Security. Doge will make sure you get your Medicaid. There will be no cuts to legitimate payments whatsoever.
I'd like to go last, if it's okay with the other gentleman. Would you like to go, sir?
No.
Please go.
Thank you. Mr. Musk, thank you so much for coming to Wisconsin. I just want to thank you for calling out bad ideas on X. You do that like every 30 minutes, and if I don't see something, I'm like, wow, is Elon okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all know that ideas have consequences, and bad ideas have victims. And thank you for speaking up for victims. And a few nights ago when you spoke with Brett Baer, when you were being interviewed, and he asked you, what keeps you up at night? And like that other question, you answered. And you paused, and it was depopulation. And I was waiting for you to say, like, oh, the death threats against my life, or the national debt, but depopulation.
Yeah, depopulation is a really big deal.
It's not on people's radar. Why is that?
Well, I think we haven't yet evolved to deal with depopulation. You know, I guess. It's something we better evolve to deal with. or we're going to disappear. And once the depopulation ball starts rolling, it seems to gather up speed. I mean, you can look at sort of cases like Korea and Japan, which are, much further ahead or behind, depending on how you look at it. But like the population decline there is much worse. Japan is an absolute population decline, so they're losing about, I think, roughly 1 million people a year population, and that's going to accelerate. Korea has only a third replacement rate, which means that in 3 generations, the country will be 3 or 4% of its current size. Like basically, all that'll be left is a small portion of the capital city. And I keep waiting for the birth rate to turn around, but it doesn't. It seems like population collapse accelerates. That's why I think it's a very serious matter. If you believe in humanity at all, you should care about this a lot. And then, that's sort of, but that's a sort of long-term thing. And the short-term thing is that America needs to be financially solvent. That's what Doge is about, trying to just make sure America is financially solvent. And then there's also the risks of AI. So we want to make sure that AI is maximally truth-seeking, and ideally has sort of values that most Americans would agree with, and that it's a pro-human AI, that it wants to foster the future of humanity. Those are the things that I think about. So, thanks.
Elon, my name is Matt Haas, like Bonanza, Big Haas. I own and operate a small business here in the Fox Valley. And tomorrow I actually get the honor and the privilege to host Brad Schimmel at our shop, Springhetti Landscaping.
Great.
If anyone's in the valley,
sounds good.
Come down, 4:30 tomorrow. We're having a shindig to have Brad stop by. He's going to come and give a little speech, get some. That's what this was about, was Brad's election.
Yes.
And so I just wanted to say, in your opinion, what is Brad going to do for small business owners like myself?
Well, I think he's going to help get the government off your back. So that's a big deal. For anyone that starts a business, it's like you used to just be able to open a store and not get like a zillion permits and licenses and everything. That's how America, you wanted to make a product, you just made the product. And you didn't have to satisfy a massive body of regulations and get a permission from all sorts of agencies. So hopefully Justice Schimmel is, supports that and helps get the government off your back. All right. So let me finish by saying, obviously, yeah, Doge at the state level will be cool. But just remember, the importance of the election on Tuesday is gigantic. It could decide the future of the House of Representatives. It could decide then the future of America and the future of the world. So it's absolutely critical that you need to just drag friends and family to vote on Tuesday for Justice Schimmel and for voter ID. So, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you.